Are there any other kind of ahas that we could share from your knowledge and seeing patterns in some of the people you're treating and some of the conditions they have and what um, kind of emotional consciousness, blocks that we should look for or look at?
Totally. Because, okay, so with organ theory, that we have a kaleidoscope of emotions in our wheelhouse as humanity. But we can literally place certain emotions within certain organ systems. So if we take like grief, for instance, right, the that is housed in the metal element, which is the lung and the large intestine. And while both organs are they're very closely related to grief because the lungs are our capacity and worth, the lungs are our capacity to take in goodness, to absorb heavenly chi from the divine, if you will, and then absorb it in the body. And then the large intestine, we call the large intestine the alchemist because it has this amazing capacity to know what is needed in the body and to get rid of the rest. And if it does not do that, it will auto intoxicate the terrain, the body. And in life, we often do that ourselves. And one of the most profound things that I see, especially in oncology patients or people with colon issues, is that there is a huge amount or has been a huge impact of grief on their life, or there is an element of something that is not being processed, that is not being let go of. So it has auto intoxicated the system that's associated with that particular environment and the emotion. And it's really profound because when you ask questions, and I'm really deeply passionate about self mastery and empowering humanity into new ways of seeing and experiencing the profound capacity of human potential. And so when you start sharing and opening up people's awareness into behavioral patterns and their conditions, that is a one-way road to healing. So definitely, I see it a lot in colon issues, colon cancers, Crohn's disease, those kind of things. Um, Even stomach issues, gastric issues, and people's capacity to worry, like people that worry a lot, we call that knotted chi, and people that have knotted chi, this inability to psychologically digest usually have digestive issues. And that's one of the profound kind of shows of the placebo, right? Or that connection between matter and the immaterial is like if somebody worries about something, you immediately get a feeling in your gut, like associated with worry or with anxiety. And that in itself is a profound show of consciousness of this indisputable, mutually dependent connection of matter and the immaterial and its capacity to not have tone and texture. We can't taste it, we can't feel it, yet it has such a profound on matter because matter is the means by which we experience consciousness with. So I do see a lot of that. People that have had really deep issues around fear, even have a lot of kidney issues. I see a lot of kidney patients who have had profound experiences with the fear in their life that haven't been transmuted because that immaterial and matter connection has to go somewhere, and it's usually held in the soma and the tissues and the cells and the fascia, and at one point it is going to mutate the the kind of inconsistent flow that is being reflected from emotion.
Oh my God, I could talk about this stuff for hours and hours. I'm as just as passionate. So like I love this stuff. Thank you for sharing that. The grief makes so much sense and the letting go and the breathing in the lungs and taking in this divine gift of
Mm,
oxygen, that's perfectly in balance with nature as we breathe out, the trees take our carbon dioxide and it's just this beautiful interconnectedness externally and internally. And
absolutely.
then the colon, like to be able to digest and take what you're needed and let go of everything else. It's like when we're not doing that in life, our chi's all up in knots in those
It's tough,
areas.
and we're auto intoxicating, right? You know what? Really, if you don't mind sharing a story, because as we're talking about this, the most profound example of this is actually my mother. So My father had a really terrifying, long journey with Alzheimer's, and it was horrifying.
Mm.
And
Sorry.
she chose, as a medical professional, to look after him. So he was never put into care or hospitalized. She turned the house into a hospital. And, that is very difficult as a wife
Mm.
to do. She literally became his full-time carer, his medical carer, along with other medical staff and whatnot. And it was horrifying for her. And his death was also equally as horrifying. It was not peaceful. And so when he passed, she had to not only deal with the horror that she'd experienced in the caring for him for like 7 years as he slowly deteriorated, but then the absolute grief of him not being there and trying to process all of her own trauma in her caring for him and the grief that she was experiencing after. Well, my mother developed this cough, this chronic, weird, hacking cough. And it was it was just consistent, continuous. My brother, we're all got dabble apart from my father. My brother is also a sleep scientist and a respiratory physiologist. So we're
So cool.
all um and I was like, I don't like that cough. I don't like it. I don't like the cough. He was like, I definitely don't like the cough. So we sent her to the doctors. And the doctor was like, I don't like that cough either. Took loads of bloods, sent her for an x-ray. And something came up in the x-ray, right? And we're like, but we didn't know what it was because she had to go and have a CT scan and, ultrasound and stuff like that. Well, what showed up, what came was that she was diagnosed with a very stage 1 lung cancer. Um, she was in so much grief. Like she had inflammation in her lungs and this very, very small lesion in her lungs. And that was so profound for her because she knows the depth of grief that she is experiencing and really not putting things in place to try and support the grief, which I think is okay. It's okay to be with it. And
Mhm.
but at that moment she was like, oh my gosh, I'm ready. I'm ready to not grieve, and she went into profound amount of self-healing and she managed to, release her tumor and also release a huge amount of grief. And now her lungs are clear. So that in itself was really insane to witness, especially
Mm.
knowing my mother's emotional trauma,
Mhm.
the way that chose to manifest in matter.
Thank you for listening to the Heal with Kelly podcast. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. And make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. Oh, and if you found this episode inspiring, please rate, review, and share Heal with Kelly so that we can grow our audience and reach more people. We truly appreciate it. Lots of love.